Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Reeling in the Years. I'm your host, Eric Lynn. You already know. We're at it with my co-hosts. We got Brandon here on the mic.
What's up?
We got Ibrahim here on the mic.
What's up?
And today's actually a very, very special episode to me because the year we're covering is 1781. And when you initially think of that, you're like, can there really be that much recorded history on 1781? How much there can we really talk about? You know, can it really be that interesting? And I thought, if we bring a guest on, I know one person who's going to find out the most interesting stuff about this year. And that man is Jackson Shad is his Christian name. And we got him right here on the mic. Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Happy to have you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Dear friend of mine, a longtime collaborator. Jack, before we even get into 1781, bro, just give me a little bit about yourself. Let the people know who you are.
Yeah. So it's my fourth year at UC. I graduate in a few weeks. I first met Eric working on a project for a documentary last year in Eastern Europe, and I'm hoping to find a job in something media related. So if this finds its way on the internet, please hire me. I talk a lot. I yap about everything. I have about 1,000 different hobbies, and I spend a lot of time memorizing useless information. So when Eric said that he had a podcast about specific years, I was like, holy shit, I think I might be the guy.
It's a shame yapper is almost kind of a derogatory term now.
It is.
It's more of like an insult, but you're a yapper in the best way possible.
The expert
my
yapper.
kindergarten award was
Just about anything I've talked to about Jack, he's got about 50 facts or quotes or backup sources of information. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to be the perfect guest for a history podcast. So how are we all feeling today? We doing all right? Mm-hmm. You feeling enlightened, knowledgeable? Yeah, it's a very rainy day. It's a great day to go over some history, mull over our horrendous past in the past.
Where do you want to start?
I want to hand it over to Brandon. I want to know what he's got to say about the year 1781. I mean, we all do our own little research, We got our own rabbit holes we fall into.
I mean, I don't know. Rabbit hole I fell into on 1781 was mainly about China, because I know a lot of things was going on in America, you know what I mean? But I like to I don't know. I'm a real big history guy of ancient history. So I like just world history. So I like to learn things that we don't really learn about in school. But China, yeah, they had a lot of stuff going on there. You had the Qinglong Empire or something. It was the Qin Dynasty was ruling. And he was one of the longest emperors in Chinese history. He's regarded as one of probably the best emperors ever. He was real big in poetry and stuff. He ruled for 60 years, which is crazy.
That's long for that period?
Just imagine being a king of an empire for 60 years. That's
having kids at 17.
That's what I'm saying. That's probably one of the longest kings to reign anywhere. It's crazy. But yeah, he did a lot. He did a lot of stuff. And I don't know, just China had a lot of advancements, a lot of economic booms that was going on in 1781,
I feel like people definitely don't talk enough about the history of China, which probably has the longest running and most tumultuous history probably of most countries in the world, especially as far back as something like 1700s, 1600s, and before then as well. Was he the one that had so much offspring where half the people in China can trace their lineage back to him? No?
That's Genghis Khan.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. And he's not even really Chinese. He's Mongolian.
The Mongols.
Yeah,
the Mongols had a tendency to mess around with
you
can't really talk about China without talking about Mongolia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
exactly. And like you just said, most of it's weird because I took Chinese history and my teacher was saying how I don't know, the Mongols ruled China for so long and kind of intermixed with so many people that they're kind of looked at as, what I'm saying, Chinese people have Mongolian pride too, you know what I mean? The cultures kind of fused together.
What's relative size of Mongolia? I guess we have a globe right in front of us, but I don't really know where to point on it. The relative size, fraction of the size of China.
Oh yeah, it's definitely smaller than China.
Yeah.
I know that. China's huge.
Teeny tiny.
It's probably a third.
Yeah, China's definitely.
When you start talking about Russian history, and you start talking about the history of the Rus, and the entire reason Russia is in the location that it's in was because of the wars with the Mongols.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big piece too.
Like I said, the Mongols was definitely terrorizing the Russians too. They were going nuts on everybody, really. Like you said, Genghis Khan. Yeah, I don't really know. He said he had a lot of offspring, but I'm not really sure if it was in a good way.
So what exactly with Chinese dynasty occurred in 1781?
Well, I mean, like there was, like I said, there was a lot of economic booms that happened. The main thing, like the Qinglong Emperor, Qinglong, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but like he was known for poetry, which like the Tang Dynasty, which is before him, was like, you know, they're known for poetry too. But he himself wrote more than all of the poets in the Tang Dynasty like put together. So like it was like
That's amazing.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he wrote a lot of poetry. He was like very big on like intellectualism and like, you know, going to school and education. Just things like that, like, you know what I'm saying? Just a lot
beautiful.
of, they call it China's golden age. So a lot of good things was happening.
You don't see many people of the arts leading countries or nations and groups of people very often.
Yeah, I feel like it's different too in China because, like you said, their culture is so much different. And like, you know, poetry has such a different meaning, a different like role than it does in America, you know?
Mm-hmm. Is it more like of an educational sense to read poetry over there than so like just absorbing entertainment, or
It's definitely educational.
like getting a perspective?
It's definitely educational, but I feel like it's also like philosophical,
Yeah.
like moral driven, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like, not, I wouldn't say like spiritual, but like it kind of gives you those like same like stories, you know, like the Bible is nothing but poetry, and it's like,
Right.
So they write poetry that's like that, and like is like supposed to like be spiritual and like, you know, enlightening, you know.
Enlightening leaders. I mean, like, that's something we don't see very often today.
Right. The element tungsten was discovered.
I read
in
about that.
1781, and tungsten was the foundation of current lighting. So, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Carl.
Don't you
Wilhelm
miss when
Scheele.
lights all had that like orange hue to them before like LED lights really kind of swept over everything
I was
else?
hanging out with a friend the other day. They were at their apartment, and they have like all like 5600K like super white lighting in their apartment. Like super. Is that right? That's like is
Yeah.
that white? Yeah. Their
Right
whole
on.
apartment was white. And I was like, why is it so cold in here? Like, why do you have like cold ass lighting? And they were like, well, when I was growing up, I always viewed warm lighting as like poor people lighting. And I was like, that's got to be one of the worst takes I've ever had.
What? I've never heard of that. Wait, I wanted to ask you, what is like tungsten lighting? Like, what's the difference between that and like normal lighting? What was like the
What?
big?
It's like tungsten is like
Yeah, so the first light bulbs were basically made by taking out a gas from like a sphere of glass. So you remove all of the gas in a system, you create a vacuum, and then you use a metal and you heat that metal up by running electricity through it and it glows. But tungsten was really important because it doesn't just immediately melt at that glowing point. It can sustain itself at that glowing point and without melting, A, because it's in a vacuum, and B,
Well, they were pretty toxic. Like if you broke one around, like you wouldn't want to inhale.
That was in
What comes out?
CFLs.
Oh,
did
shit.
That was in like
My
the
bad.
70s.
Oops.
So what do you mean by like a vacuum too? Like you mean like inside the light bulb?
Like older light bulbs are just like vacuums on the inside. Yeah. Well, that's why it's so hard to make them, is because like, you know, we take for granted like stuff like vacuums and shit like that. It's like, okay, well, this is like, you know, fixing my floor, but they had to actually have the technology to like seal this thing completely and put an electronic device in it. And at that point, it was like 1890. But we're talking about 1781. So we can still talk about the Industrial Revolution.
Was that going on at the time, Jack?
What?
Was that going on at the time?
It was like just starting. They made the first iron bridge, which is like kind of a huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they invented the steamboat in France. I have this in my doc, actually. This is something in France. Claude de Joffre successfully demonstrated a steam-powered boat in the Dobus River in France.
It's not the only form of transportation. They were also developing hot air balloons in 1781.
Right.
First hot air balloon didn't fly until 1782, so not really relevant. They were working on it.
They were working on
It was
it.
in the works. It
That was
going.
huge, man. Without the hot air balloon, we would be nowhere.
Would you
We'd
guys
literally be nowhere.
would you
be
guys
nowhere.
ever get into a hot air balloon like in a little basket?
God, you can pay me $1,000.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
It depends like which one, but that
No.
little basket.
I think I could do
Make
the
it
heights.
metal, dog.
I'm
or
not
something,
getting in the
like,
basket.
I could
We
totally
don't
go
have to
skydiving.
float in baskets anymore. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
What'd you say?
I feel like I would rather go skydiving and hop out of a plane than be in a hot air balloon. Because a hot air balloon, you're just like, you're literally just dangling around.
No, yeah.
It's like death is taunting you. It's kind of rude.
When you see one when you're on the ground, though, like you ever been like driving somewhere and you see like just a random ass hot
And
air
it's like,
balloon like
cool.
out
I just
there.
don't
It's
get
always
it.
like
It's like,
that's
wow,
dope that
that's
they still
live.
do that.
Yeah.
I don't get it, man.
But I'm not getting in one.
And I'm just like,
So like, where do they land? How do you control this shit?
That's what
'Cause,
I'm
like,
saying.
That's
That's what I was
the
gonna
one thing
say.
I never got was like there are all these dudes
I'm
like
sitting
floating
here,
around in the air and they're
pulling
hired.
the
How
string.
do they control?
Well, I think you have primary control over your up and down because they just like pull that thing and more gas gets released, and then it's probably just up to the wind.
Literally, other than that,
To
it
kind of
takes
take
you
you
wherever the
wherever
wind
you're gonna
blows.
go.
That's kind of crazy.
So where do you land?
Wherever the wind
A
blows.
field?
Where do you go?
I guess it's easy.
I mean, if you're like blowing towards somewhere you can't land, you just hit that ignition again and just float over it. Really stupid. Like, it's just a really stupid way to get around. Like, what do you think the original like purpose of a hot air balloon even
It was
was?
for atmospheric studies.
Huh?
Atmospheric studies. They wanted to like study the upper atmosphere.
Uh,
Yeah. 1781.
It's like more your hip thing.
So what I got is this Spanish guy called Army sent Lima, and they killed Tupac Amaru II, who was a.
They killed Tupac?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Tupac was
Tupac?
dead. He was like a. Wait, let me go back to the. He was like a conquistador from Spain,
Mm-hmm. Like a conquistador.
Peru.
Where, like, was he at? Like, does it say like what part of the Caribbean he landed at or whatever, or South America?
I think he was in Peru. That's where he got.
Yeah, he was like a self-proclaimed like new icon for the Inca Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just come in like
Yeah.
I'm the new leader of the Inca
It's basically
Empire.
just the
It's like,
plot
what?
of El Dorado, if you've ever seen
That's
that
kind
movie.
of great. No, I don't think I have.
And the
I've heard of it.
The animated one.
I only played
Oh!
that first Uncharted game.
I think I
where they go to
have.
El
It's a
Dorado.
cartoon.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think my little nieces and nephews watched. I watched it with them. It was pretty good.
Los Angeles.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have to talk about Los Angeles.
Man, Los Angeles was founded in 1781.
Yep.
Did you know that?
Like 44 Spanish settlers.
September 4th, 1781, originally named El Pueblo de Nuestra Señora, La Reina de la Los Angeles, de Rio de Porciúncula. It's like a 10-word long name. Yeah, it's a full name right there.
What's the thing in English? Do you have it?
Blade Runner's
In
1781.
English,
The name?
I think they just shortened it to Los Angeles. English speakers were like, I'm not saying all that shit, bro. Like, just it's a city name. Yeah, it was originally established as a farming community to support nearby Spanish missions.
And now it's like one of the biggest cities in America.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Do you ever see like the skyline views of Los Angeles? Like it's so big, like the city. It's
Yeah,
just so-
shout out
like 100,000
shout out
streets.
Blade Runner 1984 opening shot. That's all I need to know about LA.
Yeah, well, not the real LA.
Oh, yeah.
That LA doesn't exist yet. Watch Drive. That's all we need to know
Watch
about
Drive,
LA.
yeah,
We just
exactly.
watched Drive recently. And he told me that fact. There's 100,000 streets in the Los Angeles area.
That's
No
crazy.
shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder like
Give me violence and all this discounts.
Oh, man.
I wonder what it would be like to go to whatever you just said, the old Los Angeles when it was still a farming community, and just see it when it was like 50 people in the town.
Probably
Like
pretty mid.
it'd definitely be
They grow
big.
like olives, grapes.
But it'd just be crazy. Like I mean, of course, if you
Yeah,
have
I
the
mean,
top in
it's
the time
still LA,
machine,
it's still
yeah.
fucking gorgeous.
Well, it would just be like, bro.
Do you still have the beach?
Just
Yeah.
We
me
have
and
50
my
people.
homies in 70-degree weather.
Then one brave person was like, "We got to make the fucking Avengers happen." And then now we have the Hollywood.
Yeah, no, yeah,
The
whole
business
Hollywood
and-
is because of Thank you, Stanley.
They're like, anyone think about making movies on all this farmland right here? Doesn't that seem more important than like food and sustenance?
There's an Eclipse in 1781.
For real?
Yeah, Eclipse shout out.
We just had an eclipse.
Just had an Eclipse. The Demons came out. Did you see those?
There was not any
I,
eclipse.
I caught a demon.
Did you guys see the
too. I
eclipse?
caught
Did you
a
see the
goblin
eclipse,
after it.
Ibrahim? Did you like it?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You got your little glasses and
I got my
everything.
glasses. I went to the park over there in Blue Ash.
Oh yeah.
There's a hell of a lot of people. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool, man.
It was live. It's crazy how, like you said, like the last one, or I don't know if that was the last one, but one they only come like every few hundred years. Like,
I think that we're going to get another one of this amount of totality in like 30, 40 years. Maybe.
We're not going to have
Maybe.
another one in
Are
this
you
area
sure?
until like 2144.
exactly.
Yeah, there will not be another Eclipse in Cincinnati.
You'll be around 200. You'll be 140
I'll
years
get,
old.
I'll get like a Neuralink or whatever and I'll just copy it.
Yeah, exactly.
was like 40 years. I heard that from multiple people and multiple
Not in
sources.
Cincinnati. I mean, I think it might be in like the U.S. but
Yeah,
not-
like somewhere in the U.S.
Yeah. So if your great grandkids are like still in Cincinnati or whatever,
it's great to have an excuse at like 2 p.m. just to like drop everything.
No, I was talking to my boss about this the other day. They should just like make a whole week of this. Like, why don't we just have the whole week off? Like, the sky literally just turned dark, dude. 500 years ago, people would like...
Their minds would be blown.
Yeah.
Like, what? I was talking to my dad about that when it was happening. I'm like, man, they would look up in the sky. Like, what?
Oh, yeah. Well, realistically, they'd probably just like point to the nearest woman and say, holy shit, she's a witch, and then burn her.
Wouldn't they do that in
Like, oh my God,
the Incan Empire? Wouldn't they use eclipses and stuff like that as for like religious purposes? In like the Incan Empire, like in South America, wouldn't they use that? I know it's like a big symbol down there is like the eclipse.
Yeah, bro, it is. Especially in like, I seen this Native Americans, like, you know, like a little further than Inca, but they were talking about how like even today, like they don't even look at the eclipse and everything. Like they said, like this, you just can't look at it. And he was saying because in their religion, like it's like a cosmic event, and there's like all these things that can happen with the atmosphere, and you might not notice it now, but like later on it'll affect you like spiritually or like mentally or whatever. But I was thinking about it because like people back in the day, it probably came from like people back 500 years ago all looked up into it, and they all got blinded. Like a whole tribe probably got blinded, and then now this like all the other tribes around it was like, oh no,
they were like, God cursed him for
nobody.
looking at it.
Nobody look into it. Now it's just like this like spiritual religious idea to not look at it. Like, you know what I mean? It makes sense. It's kind of crazy.
Pretty awesome. No, we should get time off for it. I agree. Like you could like 15 minutes. That's it. Like honestly, probably like one of the most interesting astrological events that you'll ever see in your entire life. Probably for the rest of your life. Actually, 100% for the rest of your life in this area, and you got out of work for like 15 minutes. That's kind of.
Oh, bro, it is. And y'all see it when it like went fully total, and like the ring now is around it. Like,
I was with a group of like 15 people, and only one person had like the actual glasses. And so we were all just like passing around the glasses. I was looking up at it like a couple of times.
Did you go up to totality? Did you go up to the...
No. I just looked from down here. It was close enough. It got dark enough to be like, what?
Did you see the moon bases or anything? Did you see the...
I put on the 3D glasses and I saw like the...
How do flat earthers explain that? How do flat earthers explain eclipse?
How does who explain eclipse?
The flat earthers. How do they explain? Because they believe that the sun and the moon are actually rotating in a circle, and they're like really small. They believe the sun and the moon are like 30 miles wide and made out of plasma. Well, the sun is, but like...
Made out of plasma.
Like the moon.
That's not my job to rationalize that.
Did they like catch up to each other?
I remember they said Kyrie was a flat earther.
Oh yeah, he was, wasn't he?
I think they said that. They said Kyrie has never said that he was a flat earther. Like, people had just been saying that. Like, it was like, I've seen a meme. It was like, has anybody actually seen a video? Yeah, it was like, has anybody actually seen Kyrie saying he was a flat earther? It's flat.
Fellas, what a pleasure. How quickly does 30 minutes pass by when we're talking about our past, our present, our future? What's happening? What's going on? We're redoing this outro because our cameras keep
Which also means we have to
killing
redo the number,
themselves.
I think.
Yeah, so what we're going to do real quick, I did a whole joke about how we're signed by Spotify, and I'm just going to drop that just for the sake of wrapping this up. You already know the deal. We're going to generate a new number, and then we got our new year for episode 3. How's that sound, fellas?
I like it.
Let's do it. So between 1 and 100, we worked our way back from 1924 last episode, and so now we're going to work our way back up a little bit between 1 and 100 years from now, 1781. We're going to work it. And then we'll see what episode we do from there. Let's do it. You ready, Jack? 3, 2, 1. 61. 61 years.
Ooh, that's not enough.
That's not enough? 1781 plus 61, Jack. Mr. TI 84, please.
61, what's that, 82? Is that 1842? Yeah.
1842, episode 3.
Sailed
Ladies
the
and
ocean
gentlemen,
blue.
stay
1842, it sailed the ocean blue. That's what they say.
I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed us in our rambles. Did you have something to say? No. Okay.
That was
he
rude.
He pointed at you and that
Do you have something to
confused.
say?
I thought you were trying to indicate like, oh, Brandon was trying to say something.
No.
I want to give a special thank you to Jackson Shad for joining us today. You're fantastic.
Always.
I could talk to this man about anything for hours at a time, at any time. And with that, stay tuned. Episode 3, 1842. 1842, stay tuned. If you want to follow along, do your own research and see if we cover your favorite thing that happened in 1842. Boys, let's go.
Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my dad. My cat, Jonesy. If you're at home watching this, I love you.
Hold up, Spotify just called. You think we should sign for 80 mil or should we go higher?
Higher.
I'm cool with 80 mil. Let's just sign the deal. Let's just sign the deal. All right. We're signed on with Spotify exclusive episode 3. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. That's a wrap.